Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tommy O'Brien, coming to you live from TFNN. We kick things off on Friday, 3:07 p.m. Eastern Time. We got about 53 minutes left to go in trading. In this market, showing no signs, I'll get it out, of slowing down just yet. Man, we got quite a market to the upside. Volume, not sure we're going to have the volume today. Looks a little bit light across the board, but guess what? Nothing in the way of this market right now. Now, we got earnings next week. We'll talk about that, but this VIX is telling you nobody is worried right now as the VIX continues to decline. We're down by 31 cents right now. We're at 15.08. We had a 14 handle yesterday. We were sputtering around at 15 for most of the part of this morning. And yeah, that is not indicative of any fear coming in this market as we trade higher with the S&Ps up by 0.4%, up 26 points at 64.28. NASDAQ 100, you accelerate higher. We got a couple tech companies with their numbers this week. We get some more companies coming out next week. You get Apple next week, Amazon. We'll get into those earnings. Meta, Microsoft, okay, many. Next week, we'll get into those. But yeah, we survived this week. Google shares, higher yesterday, higher again today by about 0.5%. Tesla, okay, you came into their numbers at almost 330. We're trading at 315. You were as low as 300 yesterday. Still a tough go around for Tesla shares, but you jump down to gold right now, jumping around for markets, down by $33. We talked about yields at the top of the hour. You get the 10-year right now. That's a 5-minute. You take a look at the daily, and we're talking about a 10-year that's positive by 5 ticks right now, and you got a 10-year yield of 4.39. Okay, 4.39. Now, what's so remarkable, I keep saying it, is you back it out. July 1st, we were at 4.19. 4.19. Okay, we're at 4.4% almost, and you have a dollar right now that cannot find a bid. And yeah, you're up today, up 294 ticks. But this is a series of lower lows, lower highs, and you are going to have pressure on yields in the formidable near-term future. Talking about Powell, talking about rates, and that's going to put pressure to the downside on the dollar. Doesn't mean you have to trade lower, but it's like having the wind at your back in terms of there's going to be pressure for yields to go lower, even on a 10-year basis when you're talking about a Fed, and that's going to bring pressure on the dollar to go weaker as well. Okay? It's important to remember that this acceleration in the dollar, okay, from 92 in June of 2021 to 115 had to do with our Fed hiking things in a manner we had not seen in some time, okay, and being ahead of the world, where we were the only game in town for yield. Everybody else caught up, but we were the ones ahead of the curve in terms of hiking. Well, we have quite a pullback going on. Okay, but you went from 90 to 115. We've only pulled back from 110 to 97. There is more room for movement in the dollar. And 90 is the next natural technical point in that dollar, man. Many times you're pushing 90 or you're pushing 100, ballparking. Okay, you get a little bit lower, you get a little bit higher, size 103.82. But once you cross those lines, that's where the next logical spot is. That's where we were at the lows of 2018, the beginning of February, and that's where we were at the beginning of 2021, where you took off to the upside. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit of earnings. So, we make it through this week, and now next week is basically the main event. On Microsoft. On Wednesday, we get Meta and Microsoft. Okay, remember, the M's go together and the A's to go together. I don't know why. But Meta and Microsoft on Wednesday, Apple and Amazon on Thursday, among many other companies, folks. Okay, just taking a look at the calendar here. Tuesday, they're talking about this one in the den, United Health. Okay, Tuesday, before the open. You ready for some volatility, baby? So check this out. Let's see what type of a move we got on UNH earnings. Yeah. And this is why you should understand options, folks, even if you don't trade options, okay? Because if you had no clue about options, you wouldn't be able to go over here to the option chain and say to yourself, well, geez, that's the implied volatility with options that go through next Friday. Now, that's not the move that's around earnings entirely because earnings happen on Tuesday. So you're still buying exposure for volatility that's factored in for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But you can see that on a weekly basis to go out each extra week, you're only talking about what? $2.50, $3.50, $3 per week of volatility. But next week, $24 on a $282 stock. I'm not sure they're going to be able to provide you the basics of this. And folks, they do have criminal behavior going on. Okay, the articles that I've read on this company just over the last years always made me think, how is this legal and how are people not in jail? How are they not clamping down on them for fraud, for billing, for Medicare fraud, everything? Okay, I don't have enough time in this show, and I should make a 1 hour just show that can run in perpetuity on the amount of articles. And it's great articles written by other people, folks. You know, in the Journal, in Bloomberg, we talked about them at the time. But don't look for some magnificent resolution here. As in, they are deep in it, man. That's it. So they're out with their numbers Tuesday, okay? Also on Tuesday, PayPal, Boeing, UPS, Procter & Gamble, okay? Starbucks is after the bell. Visa after the bell on Tuesday. Now I'm just cherry picking. There's other ones in here as well. Wednesday before the bell, Kraft Heinz, Humana, Etsy, Harley Davidson, Generac, Altria, and then Wednesday after the bell, the real main events begin. Meta and Microsoft. Also Wednesday after the bell, okay? Robinhood. Talk about some volatility recently, man. Whew. Look at this thing. Up another almost 3% today. $104.84. So they'll be out with their numbers, as I mentioned, on Wednesday after the bell. Yeah, and how's that? You're looking at about a $10 move in either direction, which is a 10% move priced into this equity by next Friday in either direction. Well, when you can pop 3% like it's nothing on a Friday, you better believe there's going to be some volatility around earnings week. Okay, Bookings Holdings, they're out by next Wednesday as well. Cheesecake Factory, we get Caesars in there. Excuse me, no, that's Tuesday. Jumping around. Robinhood, okay, you get AMET on Wednesday as well. Lam Research, Qualcomm, Ford. I can't go through all these equities, okay? And then on Thursday, CVS, Roblox, Norwegian Crude Line, Kamiko, CCJ. You talk about through a rocket ship, man. Look at that Kamiko one, pushing $80 yet again. MasterCard, Cigna. Thursday after the bell, Amazon and Apple, not to mention Coinbase, Reddit, Roku. And then on Friday, how about the gas companies? Exxon, Chevron. Big week next week. Stay tuned, folks. We'll come right back.